What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Monday. This show is going to be absolutely loaded, jam-packed with all types of intel, nuggies from the NFL Combine, because I am here with two guys who were on site in Indianapolis for A to Z Sports last week, and now they're back home. Everybody traveled home safely, but in my opinion, this NFL Combine turned the Titans draft possibilities completely upside down, because we go into the NFL Draft Combine and we think the Titans are going to take an edge. Which of these three edges do they like? Who's going to rise? Who's going to fall? And then maybe you'll talk wide receiver, cornerback, round 2, round 3. I don't feel like that's just a shoe-in at all. And so I cannot wait to dive into all of the things that these two guys learned, what I've learned, what I put together from talking to all of them, plus our others that were there in Indy for the A to Z Sports NFL Combine coverage, because everybody crushed it. That was up there, our group of 7. Easton will be on the show tomorrow on a Tuesday, where we will redo our mock off season for the Titans, which I cannot wait for. But Ryan, hope you're doing well. JT, hope you're doing well as well. And I will let JT tell the people what they got to do.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Good to see all three of you. As Just Smash says, it's apparently the best 3 A to Z morning show hosts. So kicking Easton once again while he's not here on a Monday morning. Love to see it, but listen, I'm not gonna dispute that right here. But yes, it is a Ryan stream this morning. Good to see all of you guys in the chat. Good morning, Andrew. Good morning, Bustin' Diamond. Good morning, Tighten Up _2. Good morning to all of you guys. We are back from the Combine, and we certainly, as Austin said, learned a lot. I learned a lot of valuable insight into what the Titans might be thinking, what a lot of people think about these draft prospects. I would call my portion of the nuggies like a 12-piece Chick-fil-A nuggie. That's how many I got this week. That's where I would
just 12
do mine. I mean, listen, that's I feel like a pretty substantial order when you're talking about chicken nuggies. I'm not going to go crazy with like the Wendy's 20-piece or anything like that, but
I feel like Ryan got like a couple 20 pieces.
Well, and I was going to say, I learned all of that stuff, and Ryan learned a lot more important stuff than I did, like what a chud was and how to get frame mogged this past week. So a lot of good things happening.
Not already. Stop. Not already.
This week, but I'm excited to get into everything this show has to offer. Kind of a debrief from the Combine. Yet last week you and Easton Ryan did like a primer for the Combine. This is the debrief. So excited to get into it. Need a couple of things from you guys beforehand. First and foremost, if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate you guys watching over there. Hit that like button, like the show, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification bell as well so you don't miss out whenever we go live on a weekday morning. And then if you're on Facebook as well, we appreciate you watching over there. Hit that like button, like the page. And Austin, I think we're ready to get rolling.
Yeah, also officially welcome to A to Z Sports here live on a Monday. I'm Austin Stanley alongside JT Ruhnke and Ryan Roberts. By the way, you should also go subscribe to the YouTube channel Best Pod Available, where Ryan and Joe are doing some great stuff over there with their new channel, their new show, talking all things draft and player evaluation. So check that out. But we go live every weekday morning at 8:10 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. You can follow us there at A to Z Sports. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, Threads for more great Titans content. I am dropping the Google preferred source link there in the chat. So if you follow A to Z Sports on Google and you search Titans draft, Titans combine information, Titans mock draft, Titans free agency, then A to Z Sports will show up there as a preferred source, which we appreciate that quite a bit. And then also got to thank our sponsors, because they make it happen for all of us, and they help out you guys as well. The Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, online at boneandjointtn.org. Window Nation, February's deal was great. March's deal, I don't know what it's going to be yet, because I haven't gotten in my email inbox, but I know that windownation.com, you can check them out for a free estimate online at windownation.com. That's where to go. Oh, man. Big saying, y'all cast out Easton, the pro edge guy, for this conversation, huh? Look, that was not the point. We will do the mock off season tomorrow on a Tuesday morning, and it'll be JT, Easton, and I. And there's going to be a 35-minute conversation about the 4th overall pick. Like, I just know it's going to happen. And I don't think we're not going to
set
agree.
Your alarms, get your popcorn. Yeah. It's going to be another morning show where you cannot guarantee what time we are out by. So.
Yes. And so why? Because I think most of us went into the NFL Combine week saying, okay, Bailey, Bain, do they like Arvell Reese? Is Arvell Reese going to be there? Because the Jets might take him at 2. We don't know what the Cardinals are going to do, but the Titans are going to have, at minimum, one of those 3 edge defenders on the board, maybe 2 to pick. And like, how are we going to, and I've come out of that draft or the combine and even like midway through the week. And Ryan, I'll let you kind of talk about this as a combine as a whole. Mm-hmm. The numbers were nuts. Guys were the fastest, most explosive that they've ever been. Records on records being set on that Indianapolis turf. I'm starting to question if it's juiced field or a juiced track or not, or if it was what's going on, because you have guys running insane times there, including some very large human beings like Arvell Reese, like Sonny Styles, who's on the graphic right there, guys north of 240 running 4.46 40s as a linebackers, edge rushers. And then you have Jeremiah Love, that number 4 right there on your screen. He ran a 4.36 as a running back. And then I guess the only reason you can say that maybe the turf wasn't juiced because Carnell Tate, Ohio State wide receiver, ran a 4.52. And so like, okay, maybe it's normal. But then Adam Schefter's out here throwing all the water carrying that he can possibly for Carnell Tate's agent, saying, no, that number was actually like 4.47. So it was a wild week of testing. And I think as a whole, I have no idea what's going to happen in the top 10 of this draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's very unpredictable this year, I'd say. It's interesting you mentioned like the testing numbers as well. I think it's a combination of a lot of different things, right? Because I think just generally speaking, the Lucas Oil Stadium is a fast track just to start with. I do believe that training is getting better for these types of events, right? Like we are getting better at training athletes to fulfill their athletic potential with these testing numbers. But I also do think that that turf might be a little springy, like we saw we had a tight end do a 45.5-inch vertical this past week, right? I mean, so like we are getting to the point of like NBA defining physics at this point, right? Like I feel like I'm reading the old Wilt Chamberlain stories of like him having a 49-inch vertical, but there's actually no proof. We actually have proof this time, but it still doesn't necessarily feel real. So it was a fun week though, man. I you know what it is? It's funny, Austin, is I've kind of talked a lot about this draft not being the best one, obviously, right? Up top, I don't think it's a great draft, and I don't think it's like the deepest draft of all time either. But I do think it is funny to think of like, man, maybe there was a little posturing on the combine side to try to get us more and more excited about this draft, even though we know it's not great because there's a bunch of athletic freaks in it, right? So it was a fun week, though.
I think I texted you guys that. Like, I'm open to being sold the conspiracy theory that the NFL, ESPN, the NFL Network is like, man, this draft class is not that exciting. There's not a lot of quarterbacks. There's really not a receiver that's going to go high. What can we do to cook up more money, more interest in this combine for the next 2 months of this draft cycle? And it feels like that. I mean, it's crazy how fast these guys. Go ahead.
I know I like a good draft conspiracy theory. I am here for the conspiracies. Absolutely. I don't know if there's any validity to it at all, but I mean, maybe it gives us more hope that maybe there's more juice to squeeze in this class, and maybe it's just been tampered down a little bit with the constant transfers and some injury stuff. And I'm going to try to look from a glass half full type of perspective, but it was definitely interesting to just see how many guys were, historical testers, not just like good testers. We had a linebacker that was amongst the best that we've ever seen. We had a wide receiver. The Jeff Caldwell kid out of Cincinnati had the second best combine that a wide receiver has ever had from a relative athletic score perspective, right? So like it was a really freaky week from a testing perspective for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. JT, anything to add? I'm going to keep going about the Titans in particular, but anything to add combine wide on that note?
No, I definitely agree with what Ryan's saying there. The athletic testing was off the charts. I do also think it's a situation where you look at exactly how many players did in fact test this week and say, because of the smaller sample size that you have, it's going to lend itself to be, the numbers are going to be better anyways, because yes, the most athletic guys are going to want to test and the other guys who may not be testing as well are just not going to. So you're getting the best of the best, basically, testing there, which is going to raise that number. But like you said, the Jeff Caldwell coming out of nowhere to do that thing is just that was going to happen regardless, because that's apparently what Jeff Caldwell is built of. Kenyon Sadiq with his sub 40 time. That's just who he is, and it is a fast track and all that. But like, of course, that those are still the guys that you look out there and you say that is just raw freak athleticism right there that you aren't going to get by skewing any types of numbers. As a whole, though, I do like push back just a little bit. Like, the guys who were tested because they know they were going to test well, and so you have the goalpost shifting a little bit on that. But
on
I
the
still am
averages,
not going on the averages, right? Yes,
but the individuals still doing
Exactly.
the numbers that they put up is still crazy.
Well,
Yes.
can I say this one thing? I do think that there's one piece of context to consider with some of these testing numbers is there is a trap in front of us now, folks, with some of these testing numbers, because like Jeff Caldwell, for instance, Cincinnati. Guys, he ain't that good. Like, his film's not very good, but he tested about as well as anybody ever has. Mike Washington, a running back out of Arkansas that I like a ton, he's not a 4.33 athlete on film. Like, he's just not, right? So there's going to be some impulsive takes based upon the testing, and people are going to kind of reinvent players in their minds. The one thing that we always need to remember with these numbers in general, whether they are higher than we think, lower than we think, or any type of variation, is it is a checkpoint to go back and watch the film. So do not reinvent players in your mind. If there's someone that is much more athletic than you thought or a much worse athlete than you thought testing-wise, go back and watch the film and verify things. Let's just not jump the shark of like, oh, this guy's a super athlete, even if it doesn't show up on film. In that case, it doesn't matter.
I don't want to get too deep into this because I want to talk more Titans and how this has been completely ripped wide open, in my opinion. But like, some of these testing things are training for the drill. Like, you're training for the 40, and just by being a better trained 40-yard dash runner, you can shave a considerable amount of time off your clock, right? The 20-yard shuttle, the 5-10-5, I think is the most phony test out there, because it is literally a formula. And like, I ran a fast 5-10-5. Why? Because somebody taught me how to do it. And all it is like 2 steps, 3 steps, 2 steps, done. Like, there is a footwork to it. And if you can cook that drill to make yourself look quicker, better, more explosive. So I throw a lot of 20-yard shuttles out of the window, like, because I just know it's easy to just be trained on it. So like, I think there's some things like that you can kind of, okay, whatever. But anyway, very fast, very, very fast overall for this combine. So now to the Titans perspective, right? Guys that I think have entered the chat for the Titans at the 4th overall pick. I think Jeremiah Love is 100% on the board here. We're going to talk more about this throughout the day, throughout tomorrow, throughout this entire week. But Jeremiah Love is absolutely on the board at 4 overall to join the 3 Bailey, Bain, and then Arvell Reese. I think Sonny Styles is on the board at 4 overall for the Tennessee Titans, the linebacker out of Ohio State, who has, what was he? He was like a perfect RAS score at like 5 different positions, including wide receiver and tight end and defensive back. And he's like a 6'5"
he was compared.
linebacker.
They were comparing him to Calvin Johnson on the broadcast, numbers wise, right?
It's
like
the
it was
defensive
wild
Megatron.
right.
This is Megatron.
So there's 5. I think there's some other guys that might be on that, but I'm currently minimum 5 deep for 4th overall options for the Tennessee Titans, which is more than I think. Cardinal Tate is something we'll talk about later on. Is he still something that could be an option at the 4th overall pick? We'll discuss that as well. So wide open Titans draft at the top, and how they're going to try to compare and pair their 4th overall pick with their 35th pick, with their 66th pick. There's a lot of different things here to consider. But let's ask this question to the audience to get things going, because Ryan and Easton did this on Monday, pre-combine, of 5 really crucial questions the Titans needed answers to after the combine. So we're going to go follow up on what we learned here. How do we think the Titans currently rank these top 3 edge guys? How do we think these Titans currently the Titans currently rank these 3 edge guys. So here is what we saw from last Monday. We know these 3 are there. We know how talented, how athletic they are, but they're also very much a choose your flavor, right? Like, French fries are good across the board, but everybody's going to prefer different type of fast food French fry rankings. If you're a waffle fry guy, if you're a McDonald's fry guy, if you like the crinkly cut, they're all good, right? And I don't know, maybe you don't think they're all good, but you have your preferred flavor of French fry and style of French fry, just like you have for these edge rushers. So
you have the McDonald's fry, you have the Chick-fil-A waffle fry, and you have the Arby's curly fry. They're all 3 very different.
And I will take every single one of them if they're presented to me, right?
Exactly.
So the question, and this is not a personal thing for us, we're trying to predict the fry rankings for the Titans. How do we think the Titans currently rank these top 3 edge defenders? JT, you can throw that in the chat. Post combine. How do we think the Titans rank these defenders post NFL Combine? We'll get to your answers, but first, let me tell you guys about our great friends at the Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. boneandjointtn.org is the website, so go check them out in Franklin. Great people, great physicians, doctors. They know what to do, whatever your injury may be. They can help you out, whatever your injury needs. Hopefully you don't have to have a procedure. Nobody wants to have a procedure, and so if you can avoid that, they're going to help you with physical therapy, how to do it at home, how to get some of your habits to be better for whatever that ailing injury is. Sports medicine, they are top-notch in the Middle Tennessee area. They can also serve you in Northern Alabama and Southern Kentucky. Great people, great folks, experienced, great support staff, and their facility is phenomenal. It really is. Check them out online. Book an appointment when you need them. boneandjointtn.org.
Hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the show. Appreciate you all being in here this morning. Once again, we're doing the Combine debrief, asking, after a whole week at the Combine, how do you think the Titans rank the edge rushers? Not your own personal. I mean, yes, you can also throw your own personal in there, but it's going to skew the conversation here. But how do you think the Titans, Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, Robert Saleh, the entire contingency of Titans coaches and front office people, rank these 3 edge rushers? Bustin' Diamond kicks us off and says Reese, Bailey, Bain. Bork says Bailey, Bain, Reese. So kind of it's flipping the first and the third one there. Titans Kyle, Reese, Bailey, Bain. Reese, Bailey, Bain once again. Reese, Bailey, Bain. Tall Texan, our favorite curmudgeon, says pass, pass, and pass. So there you go with that one.
Hey, that could be the reality. I don't know, but that's not the question.
Steven says Bailey, Reese, Bain. Bailey, Reese, Bain. Reese, Bailey, Bain. Bain, Reese, Bailey. Reese, Bailey, and then Bain. So a lot of points here for at least Arvell Reese at the top. But then we get 3 straight Baileys at the top. Bailey, Reese, Bain. Bailey, Reese, Bain. Bailey, Reese, Bain. So a clear kind of third option here so far, but Jake Hughes goes against that and says Bain, Reese, Bailey. Bailey, Reese, and then a big gap and says Bain. Ed Rogers says Reese, Bailey, Bain. Reese, Bain, Bailey. Jeff says his guess is Bailey, Reese, Bain. I mean, unless someone has a huge argument here for Ruben Bain, it feels like I wasn't kind of calculating that in my head right there, but Ruben Bain narratively feels like he is the last one on the board right now, according to the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real quick, Manifest says he wasn't able to watch the Combine. Unfortunately, had to put his cat down due to kidney failure, so needs some information on what happened, please. So thoughts with you, but I will take that and let you know that you should check out Ryan and Joe's new YouTube channel, Best Pod Available. You guys have, I don't know how many videos, like more than Chick-fil-A nuggets JT has, maybe from this past week. And so, which is 12. So I think there's a lot of good content there to go catch up on if you did miss the Combine. So I put up a poll and I just asked, which of these edge rushers do we think the Titans have at the top? And so we'll let that marinate a little bit. Ryan, do you want to go first? Who do you think the Titans have in the whatever order they have of these three edge rushers?
I'm actually gonna talk about this from an ascending order perspective because I think there's an argument between 1 and 2 for me coming out of the combine, but I do think Ruben Bain is third on that list. So like just starting from the bottom and working our way up there, I think Bain is 3 for a few different reasons. One is I think when you look at Robert Saleh's experience as a defensive coach and coordinator in general, I do think that he tends to prefer the speed, explosiveness on the edge, and I think that Bailey obviously fits that, the Texas Tech pass rusher. And I think if you believe that Arvell Reese is a full-time edge, he brings that as well with his 4.46 speed, right? So like the explosiveness, I think is kind of, for me personally, couple them into one group together. Because like I think that you need to try to figure out and have a deep conversation of like who you prefer if you do view Reese as an edge in terms of that explosiveness and upside as a pass rusher coming off the edge. I think Bain is just, he's different than what Saleh has typically gravitated towards. I still do have some question marks about Bain, obviously, and not much of it was answered this past week because we didn't get any testing from him, no on field. And then also what we thought was the worst case scenario from the measurements perspective, from the frame perspective, played out, right? So like he is a historical outlier who I don't think fits ideologically what Saleh typically likes from the defensive end position. So I think that just overall, that is a little bit of a weird one. Plus, I do think that the Titans may possibly have their eye on someone in the free agency that could fulfill the Bain-esque role, quote unquote. So I do think that it is Bailey or Reese. I would probably put Bailey at number 1 just because he is a true edge rusher, a guy that we know for sure can do it. Reese is a little bit of still like an upside play and a little bit of a, he's a little bit of a projection, obviously, because he played mostly off-ball linebacker at Ohio State. So I'll say it's Bailey number 1, Reese number 2. The distinction is we know Bailey can come off the edge, and I think, I don't want to say a distant third, but I do think third for me is Ruben Bain right now.
JT?
I hate to be boring, but I have to say the same thing as Ryan here. I'm going Bailey, Arvell Reese, and then Ruben Bain. I talked a lot last week about how I think just from a type of player David Bailey is, from the character, from how he would be deployed, it's always like he checks all those boxes. And of course, he's not the perfect prospect. The bend is still in question. There are some things off the edge that make him, maybe not the perfect edge rusher. And I talked a lot about how they might deploy him last week, which me and Easton ended up having like a 2.5 hour debate on that, which I have come around to him. I will give Easton his flowers. We had a big, good, long debate on that, and I'll give him his flowers there. He kind of got me to think more along what he was thinking about Saleh's defense and how he would deploy. But even taking that out of the realm of it, you talked also about how, yes, Robert Saleh said that arm length matters, but Bain's tape is undeniable. But also just how you want to build a defense for Saleh, the ability to get your arms up, bat passes at the line of scrimmage, use that length to be as wild comment from Easton there in the chat. Yikes. Okay. Crazy. Either way,
I think you have other things you need to be doing right now besides commenting and trolling JT. You should be working on your mock draft and all the other 14 article ideas that you said you had for yesterday. So
this is true.
JT, I think you just
time
got
management, Easton.
I did kind of get frame
mogged.
mogged. I got chat mogged. So. I got mogged by the chat. Either way, David Bailey has the requisite length that you want. We can pull up his testing real quick right here from this past week. 9.68, one of the more freaky athletes in this class. As Ryan said, the burst, the explosiveness off the line is something that you really like to see from him, and is something that would really fit well into the Robert Saleh defense. And not only that, I think we do need to continue to come back to the idea that we need to we need to take into account how much character matters to Mike Borgonzi and what he's looking for in a leader and a type of player to once again come in and join that young core of leaders that they are trying to develop in the locker room. David Bailey, once again, graduated from Stanford in 3 years, went to Texas Tech, played, was one of the most impressive guys at the podium that I saw this past week. Kind of came away from that podium thinking, this is a guy that I think is super smart, but is in that line of guys like Chim Dike and Alec Iomanner that are like very, they're very smart. They're very methodical in their talking and in their answers. But you get that guy on a field and a flip switches, and he's totally a different person. And he becomes that guy that wants to just take every inch of grass and go head to head with you every week. And so I think for me, David Bailey checks a lot of those boxes, and that's why he's number one. And Arvell Reese is two, just because I think the versatility. I'm more of the
Who clicked that?
Not me. I don't have my finger. I don't have my finger on the trigger right here.
Okay. But, we'll get to some other positions here in a second, because overall, like I agree. I think if I'm trying to predict the Titans, I think it's Bailey 1, Reese 2, Bain 3. Now, the one thing that I'm curious about, can Arvell Reese get an edge over David Bailey, is Robert Saleh really likes inside linebackers. And does the versatility of Arvell Reese kind of tickle Robert Saleh in a way that he likes, where he's like, I could do some fun stuff with this guy. He's not just a one position, one role type of player. There's a lot of holes in this defense. I could have some fun in the lab coming up with ways to deploy Arvell Reese. So that's kind of my one, like, I'm not sure, but because of the projection nature that we all are on the same page of, I think it's Bailey 1, Reese 2, Bain 3. The chat YouTube poll, 49% of people think Bailey, 50% of people think Bailey's number 1, 26% thinks Reese is number 1, and 24% think that Bain is number 1. So I'm going to go ahead and end that poll because we got other things to get to. And so let's just go ahead and ask this, because I think this takes us to a different level, because what makes this draft more wide open is this next question that we're about to ask, because we have here, where is this? Which one is this? Yes. The surprise position, right? Because we've been talking for now 2 full months, as it is March, by the way. Happy March 2nd. Every time I sit down, this is Easton from a week ago. Every time I sit down to do a mock draft, I find myself filtering for a cornerback, wide receiver, and edge with my early picks. Then I take a step back and think the odds of Borgonzi actually lets need dictate his draft this dramatically. My gut says the answer is no. Of course, the Titans will be prioritizing these positions in the draft because they're both premium positions and massive needs for the roster in particular. The good news is the top 100 of this class is very deep at those positions. So we know this, right? When you look at this top 100 from Dane Brugler from early February, you've got the 3 positions with green across from left to right are wide receiver, defensive end, and cornerback. That's a very good thing for the Titans as a whole. But because of what happened last week, the Titans first traded away Tavondre Sweat for Jermaine Johnson. That's something that feels like it happened a month and a half ago, but it was just like Thursday. Then they cut Lloyd Cushenberry and Xavier Woods on Wednesday evening. And so now they have a missing starting center. So let's go ahead and ask this question. What positions are the Titans most likely to surprise draft in the first 3 rounds? What positions are the Titans most likely to surprise draft in the first 3 rounds? We'll get to all of your opinions on this one, but Window Nation, this doesn't work as well with 3 people as it did with 4 on Friday. If you missed Friday's 4-person show, you should go back and check that out from Radio Row at the Combine. It was great. Window Nation is where to go. Buy 4 windows, get 4 windows for free. Still rolling on at windownation.com. So check that out. You get a free estimate with going to the website, clicking the make an appointment button. You put in your simple info. Window Nation rep will give you a phone call, and they will set up a time to come by your house for about an hour appointment. that fits your schedule. Roy runs the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area. It's a great guy, super easy to work with, and very easy to have over in your home to check out what your current windows are and what Window Nation can make your new windows. No pressure either. He's not going to sit there and like pressure you into buying something on the spot. He will let you think about it. If you don't think the time is right, that's totally cool with Window Nation, but they're always available for you. So check them out online. windownation.com is where to go for your free estimate, windownation.com. So the surprise position for the Titans in the first 3 rounds. JT, what's the chat saying?
Yeah, there's a lot of different answers here in the chat, which we will get to here. First and foremost, DJ Silent says running back and linebacker. That is one that has definitely popped up, running back specifically. Don't think we were thinking Jeremiah Love was in the picture a week ago, but here we are now. Safety is another one, which ask Easton how he felt about the safety room last week and would told you to walk the plank on this one. But now after releasing Xavier Woods, is that an option there in the first 3 rounds with a safety class that I think is pretty decent in terms of positional depth in the first 3 rounds this year? Jack says right guard. Steven says running back, center, and linebacker. Ed Rogers says guard. Top Titan says interior offensive line. James says running back and offensive lineman, in parentheses guard. Center, running back is now at the top of Eric's list, which I think is a surprise we didn't think of last week. Jeff says center, linebacker, lineman, center, running back, or tight end. Depends on what they do with Chigakonkwo, who there is some reported interest there that they want to bring him back. Andre says interior offensive line, interior linebacker, and interior offensive line, running back at 4, guard or safety, running back and offensive lineman. A lot of those non-premium positions there, but it seems like interior offensive line, for my money's worth, is the most popular decision of the chat here, which I don't necessarily disagree with, right? You get, and this is what was so interesting about last week for me, is that I go back to going to the combine on Monday and how walking in there with ignorance is bliss. No idea that they were going to cut Lloyd Cushenberry last week. Certainly didn't think that was on their to-do list. Didn't even think a Tavondre Sweat 1-for-1 player trade to go get an edge rusher was something that Mike Borgonzi had in his pocket. So everything like this changes, right? And so for me, I look at what they now need on the offensive line, which is they need a center, which I think is going to be more so a thing they get done in free agency than in the draft, because you look at what the big board looks like in terms of center prospects. And I would argue that Sam Hecht or Connor Liu are the 2 best center prospects there in the draft, close to the top. And even then, Connor Liu still coming back from an injury. I don't know if you're going to take one of those guys. You're going to have to take them higher than where they are on a big board right now. I'm looking just at PFF's big board. They're ranked at 68 and 77. I think they go earlier than that. So you're going to have to spend round 2 capital on a guy like that. Not sure that's how you want to build out your offensive line, especially if we think Connor Liu is one of the better center prospects that we've seen in the past couple of years and is going to take that 2nd round pick. I don't know if you want to do that. So I think, go center heavy and look at that market in free agency. But interior offensive lineman at guard, you still need to think about, are you going to go find a starting guy in free agency? Like, that's the one I could say, like, are you going to run it back with a guy like Kevin Zeitler? Or is this where you could see them potentially invest in some day 2 lineman talent to put there and start at right guard?
So Jason, he says, I really hate this time of year. Every show this week should be about free agency. Well, tomorrow, Tuesday morning, me, JT, and Easton will do a full mock offseason. It will include a full free agency haul, and we will talk free agency as it comes, because it is trades week. this week in the NFL. So we've already seen one with the Texans and Browns this morning, with an offensive lineman going to Cleveland, which is very interesting. I didn't know the Texans were in a spot where they could trade away offensive linemen. But anyway, so we'll talk more about that. But this is combine debrief because these two guys plus 5 others at A to Z spent a full week at the NFL Combine. So we're going to debrief it and go through. And so here is where I start. The surprise position to pick, it all starts with running back. The running back, y'all, to quote the great Petey Jones. The running back, not running back as a position. It's the running back, Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love at 4 overall. I don't know if that would be a surprise anymore, right? And I'm going to add to that. I think there's these two people that are options at 4 overall, regardless of their position, because their prospect profiles and their upside is just too damn good. And I'm throwing Sonny Styles into that as well. And I mentioned the idea of Saleh liking Arvell Reese as a Swiss Army knife. I think if you go watch the interview with Easton and Rand Carthon from Friday, Rand brought it up. Rand was in San Francisco with Robert Saleh the first go around as he was the D coordinator when they brought in Fred Warner. Now, Fred Warner was a late round pick, not the 4th overall pick. But Sonny Styles was a freaking beast, guys. And so I'm looking at Jeremiah Love and I'm looking at Sonny Styles at 4 overall. I'm at a spot to where it kind of feels like it would not be insane if the Titans came out of the first 2 days of the draft with their 3 picks and only checking one of those 3 positional boxes, like of edge, wide receiver, and corner. If they go Love or Styles at 4, they need a center, like JT said. That's got 66th overall written all over it. 35, it depends on who's available. Where'd the run go at wide receiver, corner, and edge? I think 35th overall is going to be a completely pick your card type of deal because
best player available.
Yeah, because you're going to have, I mean, and you guys, Ryan and Easton, are going to work on an article of like how many names that you heard have first round potential. My guess is probably about 75 players. And so there could be 2 corners, no corners, 3 wide receivers, or like 2 edge players at 35 that are great fits after taking Jeremiah Love or Sonny Styles at 4. So that I think it's completely wide open. So I'm saying the running back.
Yeah, for me, those weren't even in the cards for this answer because once again, we just spent a week at the Combine. It's not a surprise anymore. Like that would not surprise me. And I mean, listen, on the Jeremiah Love thing, there's a lot of talk in the chat right now about how the positional value, and just taking a running back that high is not going to be good for the Titans. I think there's a difference between taking a running back that high when they are the 5th or 6th best prospect in the class. But when they're the best prospect in the class, and you were getting, by many accounts, the best player in the draft, I don't think that matters anymore, especially at 4. And Titan Ball says a running back isn't winning you a Super Bowl. You cannot take a running back that high. Certainly, I don't think Titan Ball watched the Super Bowl this past year. I don't think he watched the Philadelphia Eagles last year. I don't think he knows who Playoff Lenny is.
That you just mentioned 2 guys, Playoff Lenny and Saquon, who won Super Bowls, but not, and were top 5 draft picks, but not by the team that drafted them.
Fair enough. I think that's also, yes. And that gets into, once again.
And Christian McCaffrey is doing dude stuff, but not by the team that drafted him.
Yes, I think that's absolutely fair.
I think you go look at the top running backs that have hit recently. I don't know. This is off the top of my head. You might have to go back to Adrian Peterson to find like a top 10 running back who did his damage in the NFL with the team that drafted him, because those guys have been moving around quite a bit.
I think it's then fair to say that if, once again, was Saquon the best player in that draft class?
Yes, he was.
And that's the
Leonard
Giants.
Fournette.
And the Giants messed up, right? And
right.
so
And
Nero
same
says,
thing
Austin,
with
you're
the
not helping.
Panthers. You can take the best player in the draft, which is a running back. It's then on you to actually continue to build around them. And I don't know if the Panthers had exactly what they needed to get the most out of him. The Giants absolutely did not have the best to get the most out of him. You've brought in a staff that has a young ascending quarterback and an offensive coordinator who loves to run his offense through a running back. That is the best setup I could think of for a running back who is the best player in a draft class.
Yeah.
Ryan,
I would say, yeah, I was going to say this, and it's interesting because like the failures of the running back in the top 10 conversation that we're having and that we will continue to have now is those organizations are typically always picking in the top 10 because they're bad organizations, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that this comes down to because the Tennessee Titans are bringing in a whole new regime. I know that Mike Bergonzi is, it's not his first year, but he is getting increased control, obviously, comparatively to what he was, right? So, it is his vision now, first and foremost. You're bringing in a brand new coaching staff. If Tennessee Titans fans, and I know you're all a little bit scarred, if you believe in this regime, I think that it allows you to have a little bit more creativity at number 4 and to maybe go, it's okay if we don't beat the drum for positional value because we trust that this organization is going to be able to build it differently than the failures of the Giants and the failures of X, Y, and Z teams. So I think it comes down to trust. If you don't trust the organization, then you're going to look at a running back in 4 and say, that's stupid. That's all. Yeah. That's your perspective and your mindset. So I just really think it depends on how much trust you have in this front office and this new coaching staff, Brian Daboll, Gus Bradley, how much do you have trust in this new regime moving forward? Because at the end of the day, every draft is different. And I think that this draft is unique in the sense of these premium positions that we yell about are not the strength of this draft. We have a 1 quarterback draft. We have an offensive tackle draft that is solid to good, but not great. The edge group, I think, and we talked about JT, I think you agreed with this. I can't remember 100%, but most years, these 3 edge players, if you include Reese there, are probably being talked about more in the 10 to 17 range than the top 5 draft pick range, right? So am I going to force positional value over taking a player in Jeremiah Love, who in my opinion is always going to go top 10. In every single draft, that talent is going to go top 10. I think that there is not a fully clear answer, but for me, in this draft, this format, and hopefully with the trust for this regime moving forward, I think I'm more comfortable with taking a swing on who I deem to potentially be the best player in this draft. Just my perspective on that.
All right, so I'm going to go back. I
was just going to say real quick, the pushback on that is, yes, but there's a lot of comments here that are saying, you can't do that because you have a hole. And I think what I learned a lot about from the combine this week is the fact that, first of all, how much of this changes when we get through free agency next week. Yeah. I think that's going to be a very different thing. But also, Easton sat down with Ben Solak of ESPN and had a really good conversation about the wide receiver position in particular, and talked about how many teams have really invested a top 10 pick at wide receiver and then done nothing else. The answer is pretty much 0, right? Jamar Chase was with T. Higgins. Devonta Smith was there, and then they went and got A.J. Brown as well. They've taken so many shots and so many different ways of attacking, getting that guy and getting that room to be better, that just taking a Carnell Tate, who is not a Jamar Chase, who is not a Devonta Smith, in the top 10 there, is not going to fix that position, right? It doesn't solve the problems. And so that's where I'm with you, Ryan, that I take the guy who I know is going to be a top, I'm going to say, you say top 10, I'm going to say top 5. I think there are arguments to be made that Genty versus Bijan versus Love. I've really become a huge Jeremiah Love guy in the past month or so. I think this is a guy that you take every single time and goes, this high every single time.
All right, so I'm going to go back. I mentioned Adrian Peterson off the top of my head, the last running back that went in the top 10 that did his career damage with the team that drafted him. I missed one guy, but I'm going to go through. That was 2007. Adrian Peterson went 7th overall to the Vikings. So the next top 10 running back was Darren McFadden of the Raiders at Arkansas the next year. He was, not like super great. Then in 2010, CJ Spiller went 9th overall to the Bills out of Clemson. The next running back, Trent Richardson, 3 to the Browns. This is where I feel like people started freaking out and where the value of the running back changed was the CJ Spiller and then Trent Richardson not living up to that value, because then you saw a couple of years in a row of no first round running backs at all. Then Todd Gurley went 10th to the Rams. It was great until he was unable to do anything anymore. The guy I forgot was Zeke Elliott, went 4th overall to the Cowboys. I think that was worth it because they found their quarterback in like the 4th round. That changes things dramatically when you can pair that together. Then Leonard Fournette, who we mentioned, 4th overall to the Jags. He did his damage with other teams. Then you have Saquon Barkley in 2018, 2 to the Giants, won the Super Bowl with the Eagles, but that was the Giants' fault. And then
it was, and I think it's also not lost on me that one of Saquon's better years was the bounce back year where Brian Daboll becomes the head coach and they do go the head coach of the year, and then they make the playoffs again.
Yeah, right. So
it's not lost on me.
Then you get to Bijan Robinson, 8th overall, still too early, and then Ashton Jeanty last year, 6th overall.
How about Todd Gurley? Todd Gurley was the 10th overall, right, back in the day.
Yeah, I mentioned Gurley. Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned. I missed that.
Yeah,
my bad.
I mentioned Gurley. So, really, it's Trent Richardson, and then the guys that went somewhere else and had better production than the team that drafted him, that spent the capital that high a capital to do it. And I think you can look and say, okay, the Jags and the Giants messed that up. Leonard Fournette, maybe it was a little bit different. So there's a lot of stuff there that I don't think can just be a across the board, broad painted brush when it comes to running backs drafted high. I think the Raiders drafted Bijan when the cupboard was too bare. I think you cannot compare the Titans potentially drafting Jeremiah Love to the Raiders drafting Jeanty, because the Titans' offensive line just had a 1,000-yard guy right behind it last year. As bad as some of you may think the O-line is, Tony Pollard turned it on at the end of the year. They figured it out. Right?
As bad as you think the Titans' offensive line is, go watch the Raiders from this past year. Okay,
yes.
There are peaks and valleys to this conversation. Yes, absolutely,
for sure. And so I think that, and the Raiders did not have a quarterback. Geno Smith was, I don't know what the heck he was doing last year. He was not. They drafted Jeanty in hopes that he could basically carry the corpse of Geno Smith to some relevance, and it wasn't going to work because you also need the offensive line. Right. So that's where I think Jeremiah Love makes sense here because of what he could be for Cam Ward. Ryan, you talked about that a lot on Friday. We've got clips on our Instagram about that and all over social media on it as well. So, all right. The Sonny Styles part, I think, is interesting. We did have actually, real quick, Big had a super chat come in. I believe the top 5 picks who won a Super Bowl in 20 years for teams who drafted them: Reggie Bush, Eli Manning, Von Miller, Eric Fisher, Lane Johnson, and then the Seattle Witherspoon.
Witherspoon. Yes.
Yeah. So not a lot of teams win Super Bowls after picking in the top 10, where that player is still a part of that organization. So it's a good point. But every year somebody's taking a quarterback number 1 or in the top 5 because they're trying to get to that, even though if that doesn't really pan out most of the time. All right, let's go ahead and keep moving on with our continued combine debrief. Let's talk about some wide receivers, because I no longer think wide receiver is an option for the Titans at 4. Because Carnell Tate, we asked this question to you. Well, you, Ryan, and Easton asked this question Monday before the combine. Carnell Tate's top 5 hype. What does he have to do to get and keep some top 5 hype at the combine? And while Carnell Tate interviewed very well, according to everybody, he did not do much testing other than just ran the 40, which he ran the 40 at 4.52 officially from the combine. Adam Schefter is going to carry some water for some agents and say it was a 4.47 or something. I don't think Carnell Tate, I think he had to run sub 4.4 for me to say, okay, he's entered the chat for 4th overall officially to join Styles and Love.
He needed to do something that the impossible for him. And it's not a knock on him, but it was just like, I agree with you. He needed to do something that was going to, he needed to have like the Sonny Styles day of testing that is catapulted him. And it wasn't going to be Sonny Styles level of like, he's a superhuman athlete, things like that. But just like, he needed to do something that was just not in his skill set. And once again, like what I walked away from the combine learning is that, or what I've heard and what was told to me is that like Carnell Tate is a great 2 with some fine wide receiver 1 potential that is in the mold of a Corey Davis / T Higgins. It didn't really get me excited, I guess, in terms of that. And like,
so I like Carnell Tate a lot.
I do too.
I just think that I just think there's a lot. He's a very good wide receiver. He's going to play for a long, long time in the NFL, make a ton of money as long as he doesn't have any injuries, right? And he's going to have a great career. After saying that, like the 4th overall pick sounds like if you could draft a guy who's going to play a decade plus and make a bunch of money, have a great career in the NFL, then that's not bad. But I just think because of what the position is, there's going to be like the difference of Carnell Tate to the second group of bigger body receivers that could be into the 1st round, top of the 2nd round. I don't think the gap is that big.
Right.
Does that make sense,
Well,
Ryan?
Yeah, no, it does. I would say, like, for me, the testing doesn't change anything for my evaluation of Carnell Tate. I still think Carnell Tate is the best wide receiver in this class.
Yes.
I do think that it's a fascinating conversation, and JT and I had this one multiple nights, it felt like, in Indianapolis, where we talked about, like, the value of where Carnell Tate should come off the board. And I think that is a more interesting conversation point of he's a mostly purely outside receiver who weighed in at 192 pounds. And I felt like nobody talked about that part. That was actually the part that I was kind of more like on than like the 4.53 that he ran or whatever, was that he was only 192 pounds as like a pure outside Z boundary at times receiver. Like that's a lightweight. So it tells me that he probably dropped a little bit of pounds because I think he was listed like 198 or something like that. Probably played around 200. And he came in light because I think he wanted to run a good time. And the fact that he didn't run a good time, I think it's just like one of those things where you're like, I wish I didn't have the information, right? Like my take on with Easton last week was like, don't do anything that hurts you. Like I don't even need you to do anything like crazy that's like this ascension, right? Like just don't do anything that hurts you necessarily optically, because I think the NFL is going to stand firm with Carnell Tate to be a potential top 10 pick, and I think that a lot of teams like him as the wide receiver 1 against the Mekhi Lemons and against the Jordan Tysons, even though Tyson had some good, medical news that came out this week, which was good. But I really do think that it's not necessarily about Carnell Tate. And I saw some people saying in the chat, like, he ran 4.53. Who cares? A lot of wide receivers they're really good, running the 4.5s and everything. And while that's a fair thing to say, a lot of those wide receivers that you're going to point at, though, like the Puka Nakuas of the world and the Cooper Kupps of the world, are guys that also play a little bit more inside than they do out. And Carnell Tate has mostly been a pure outside receiver. And if you are a vertically oriented outside receiver, I do think explosiveness and long speed does matter a little bit more than a guy that's going to play in a little bit more of tight quarters. So I do think that it matters. I don't think it doesn't matter, right? And also those guys that we're talking about, Puka was a 5th round pick. Cooper Kupp was a 3rd round pick. Devontae Adams was a 2nd round pick. Justin Jefferson was in the 20s, not a top 10 pick. So like that's where the conversation becomes a little bit more nuanced. I still think to make a good decision, the Titans should still consider everything. And I think Carnell Tate should still be in the conversation points. Okay. But do I think that he is a likely outcome at number 4 right now? No, I don't think he's a likely outcome at number 4.
Somebody said D-Hop was a 4.57 and he was the 27th overall pick. But like,
right.
I think why I ruled Tate out of my 4th overall pick options is because I don't think he makes more sense than the other 5 at 4.
I agree.
And it's not that I dislike. I think Cornell Tate is going to be way better than Corey Davis, by the way, because the chat did not like.
No, they didn't. And
they hated
Jeff
that.
Jeff says, JT, you crossed the line. Tate and Corey Davis, you're banned from talking wide receiver ever again. If that's your take, then go to Dane Brugler's Twitter, go to Matt Harmon's Twitter, and tell them that, because those are the 2 people I got that from. Those amongst others, but like those are the 2 guys who continue to comment.
Jeff is now saying I don't value wide receiver, when it's crazy because I've been the one pounding the freaking table for the Titans to draft a wide receiver higher than they have every year, and it's like
they need for any other team. Would this be a conversation right now?
Look,
if Cornell Tate wait for Notre Dame, Jeff being here like Cornell sucks, man, he sucks.
I think I really feel like, because I tweeted this, I don't know what day it was. It was whenever I was like, yep, I'm in on the idea of the Titans drafting Jeremiah Love or Cornell Tate at 4. And I got people like, Tate at 4? You're nuts. You're crazy. That's so dumb. And now you're like, oh, you're hating on me. Like, so I've adjusted since Thursday or whatever that was last week during the combine. He ran a 40. He just didn't do anything to, if you're sitting there at 4th overall, let's just hypothetical, right? Mendoza 1. I think David Bailey is likely to go 2 to the Jets right now. The Cardinals, I have no idea what the Cardinals are going to do. No clue.
They in my heart of hearts, they feel like an Arvell Reese team.
And maybe let's just say another D end is off the board, whether it's Reese or Bain. The Titans are sitting there with their 3rd edge, Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, or Cornell Tate. I'm taking Jeremiah Love over the 3rd edge. I'm taking Jeremiah Love over Sonny Styles. And I'm taking Jeremiah Love over Cornell Tate, because Jeremiah Love can also help you in the passing game too. Like that's why, like, I've shortened my 4th overall board to 5. Cornell Tate never wins the tiebreaker in the situation. Never.
Well, Austin, you know, one thing that we don't talk about enough, and I think someone may have said it in the chat, but I don't know who said it, was that we always like, when we talk about like helping a young quarterback, we always talk about offensive line and wide receivers. And I don't think we talk enough about what a running game can do to a quarterback, especially, right? Because like running backs want light boxes, but when you have a really good running back, boxes get heavier, right? And when you have that, you have more one-on-one opportunities outside. And the wide receiver group in the 2026 class is a pretty deep group. So, like, it's not like we're saying Tennessee Titans, don't draft a wide receiver until day 3, like 4th round again, like you did last year. What you're saying is that not to force who you consider to be a lesser player to the 4th overall spot over guys that you just have a higher grade on. Like, that's comes down to it, right? Like, that's the same ideology as like, we need to give Cam weapons at wide receiver. And it's like, okay, that's great, but there's other ways to do that other than forcing a guy at 4 that you have other guys that you like just a little bit better. So Jeremiah Love, I think, can unlock a lot of things. Yeah.
Can you learn from your past? Because I'm going to go back down the history. The 2017 draft, the Titans had the 5th pick and the 18th pick from the Rams. The 5th pick was the Rams. The 18th pick was theirs. The Titans needed a wide receiver for Marcus Mariota. They were at 5. They did not want to pick at 5. They wanted Corey Davis over Mike Williams and John Ross, but they could not trade back. They were stuck at 5. So they took their best wide receiver on the board. I doubt he was their best player on the board, but they took their best wide receiver on the board. And they knew at 5 they were overdrafting Corey Davis, but that was the only option that they thought they had because they couldn't move back. Buck's done reporting on that over the years with A to Z. They were stuck at 5. So my point is, if you're stuck at 4, don't force Cornell Tate. I know Cornell Tate is better than Corey Davis, but don't force Cornell Tate there. Don't do it. You have no reason to when you have. And so I went through the whole like Sonny Styles over Tate and Jeremiah Love over Sonny Styles and Jeremiah Love over Edge 3. Like, what if Jeremiah Love goes 3 to the Cardinals? then now you have
that's what I said the other day. I'm like, he's gonna get drafted at third anyway, so you're not gonna have this conversation.
But now you've got edge 2, edge 3, Sonny Styles, Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate's still not winning that tiebreaker. And I think, depending on who edge 2 and edge 3 is, I think there's a chance Sonny Styles can win that tiebreaker over edge 2 and edge 3. So I just don't think Carnell Tate's an option at 4.
And once again, I'll just real quick chill for the A to Z YouTube. I really think if people should go watch Easton's conversation with Ben Solak, because he is along the same lines here of like, you don't feel the need and get it right by just taking a guy at the top and saying that's all we're going to do. Like, that hasn't really worked out because of what teams have done with those wide receivers in the top 10. And once again, I will be incredibly curious to see in a week and a half from now. I will be incredibly curious to see what the Titans look like and if this is not even a question. Because if the Titans go out and sign Romeo Doubs, I feel like the Carnell Tate discussion everyone is done with it because they get a weapon for Cam. I understand where this is all coming from. It's coming from we need to get weapons for Cam Ward. But there's more than one way to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think the way in which it pays the least dividends is with Carnell Tate at 4.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
Can I ask a quick question? We don't have to expound upon it because I feel like this actually could be a full show at some point. Oh, okay. But of the players that are not considered premium in this draft for options with the Titans, so I'm talking about Jeremiah Love from the running back position, Sonny Styles playing linebacker, and then although you can argue that wide receiver is a premium position, I'm going to throw Carnell Tate into this conversation because he's not just generally viewed as the 4th best player in this draft.
He's not a premium wide receiver, maybe.
Exactly. Of those 3 options, that would be a little bit more I don't want to say out of nowhere, but like more controversial, I guess. Which one would you be most happy about from the chat perspective, and which one would you hate the most out of those 3 players? I think that's an interesting one.
We need to save this conversation.
Yes, I know. When I thought of it, I'm like, this is probably a really good just overall show. But yeah, absolutely.
And Daniel Caribbean brings up Caleb Downs. If you want to throw in another non-premium position, but a player that's very, very good, then Caleb Downs maybe could be a part of that conversation too. But it does feel like he's kind of been pretty quiet as far as the top 5 conversation goes, even though John Harbaugh, who loves safeties, picking right behind the Titans at 5. So we'll sit on that. We'll save on that. So, okay. And Justin says, well, you already started it. So no. We're going to, it's okay.
I do want to say, are we sure that if the Titans pass on Jeremiah Love, the Giants are taking him at 5, even with Cam Scadaboo? Have you guys seen how much the Giants want another running back?
Well, I mean, Cam's coming off that. Scottaboo's coming off that crazy leg break. I mean, I don't think you can't just say that. I mean, it's not like he was the most explosive, fast, quick twitch athlete anyway. But you're going to lose something coming off of that injury. And Cam Scottaboo did not need to lose anything in the first place. So
true. I'm just saying, like, if the and I understand they're kind of in different areas of their team building philosophy, but like, if the team behind you is like chomping at the bit for you to pass on Jeremiah Love at 1 pick behind you, when they could also use a Caleb Downs, a Sonny Styles, a Carnell Tate.
I've also seen that this some people say in the chat, and then I've also seen it on Twitter where people are like, this is posturing for someone to trade up for Love. And I'm like, when's the last time a team traded up into the top 10 for a running back? I don't know the answer to that question. That's probably a long time.
I have the running back draft history pulled up.
Yeah.
And this doesn't tell me trades, but the Giants didn't trade up, the Jags didn't trade up, the Cowboys didn't trade up. Todd Gurley at 10, I don't think was a trade up.
Did the Lions trade up to 12 to get Gibbs, or were they there?
That sounds correct. Did they trade up to 12?
They may have.
Jahmyr Gibbs? That's 12 though. That ain't top 10. 12 ain't top 10.
JT's trying to break rules. It's crazy.
Yeah, right.
I'm just trying to look for anything adjacent at this point.
I mean, I'm trying to think like Reggie Bush wasn't a trade up. Ronnie Brown went number 2 overall in 05.
Sorry, it actually
Cedric-
works the exact opposite. The Lions traded down and then got Gibbs. So
right.
the exact opposite of this conversation.
This is crazy. 21 drafts ago, guys, we had running backs go 2, 4, and 5 overall. Can you name those three
What
running
year was
backs?
this?
20 years ago?
2005. Running backs went 2, 4, and 5 overall.
Yeah, I think I can. That was
JT. Hold on, JT. Do you want to go first?
sorry.
Because I feel like
Yeah.
I'll-
can you even swing?
Was that Bush?
No. So you're out.
Okay.
Okay, Ryan,
I'm
go. Get out of here.
I believe 2005 was probably now I'm second guessing myself. Was it Carnell Williams, Cadillac Williams? One.
Yeah.
Ronnie Brown,
Yeah.
Cedric Benson.
Boom. You went
Boom.
in wrong order. Ronnie
fine.
Brown, 2 overall, the Dolphins. Cedric Benson, 4th overall, the Bears. Cadillac went 5th overall to the Bucks. Those Auburn dudes were just studs. That was also the same draft class that produced the following running backs. This is kind of crazy. Frank Gore went the first pick of the 3rd round.
Who never started at Miami, by the way, because the room was so loaded and crazy. It was nuts.
Maurice
Yeah.
Claret went 101 to the Broncos. Marion Barber, RIP, went 109 to the Cowboys. Brandon Jacobs went 110 to the Giants.
Who was also on the Auburn team a couple years ago that played with Ronnie Brown and Carnell Williams. Yeah.
That's right. Then you had Darren Sproles went in the 4th round. Then I think that's it. Yeah, but I mean, pretty stacked up running back class in 05. So, all right. We've got Cedric Benson passed away too. Forgot about that. Man, wild.
Cedric Benson did? Cedric Benson passed away?
I don't even
I did
remember
not.
that.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
crazy.
remember that
yeah.
either. Yeesh.
Weird, crazy stuff, unfortunately. But all right, so we got we got time for another something, right? So
Sure.
I want to ask each of you to share one nugget that we have not touched on that is somewhat Titans related or Titans adjacent that you learned from the combine that we have not discussed. So make sure you hit that like button if you're watching. Like the show on Facebook, on YouTube. Car wreck is what they said for Cedric Benson. Terrible. So one nugget that is Titans related or Titans adjacent that we have not discussed yet here on the show. Who wants to go first?
I
can
can't.
go first.
I
if you
don't.
want me to.
Okay, you want to
Go
go
ahead,
first,
JT.
Ryan? That's fine.
No, you can. You
You
got
sure?
It. You got it. Yeah, it's fine. Got it.
No, you go. You got it.
Okay.
Me.
This is one that I got. There was some buzz around this name, and it's funny because you guys were making fun of me this morning for it. But then, also Ryan putting more, grease on the fire with this one.
Mhm.
I think Casey Concepcion becomes such an interesting guy that if there was ever someone that Mike Borgonzi wanted to go against all of his priors and trade up for, not trade up from 35 into the top 20, but let's say if Casey Concepcion is there at 28, 29, is there a possibility that that's a route they go? I don't think so, but that's the type of player that you could see that.
So
happen.
you've got Buffalo at 26, by the way. San Francisco at 27. Wide receiver.
So maybe you'd have to go to 25.
The Bears.
Yeah, I don't.
10 spots. 35 to 25 for Casey Concepcion.
It would be interesting, and once again it goes against everything that Mike Borgonzi has preached. So if you do, you better be right on that. And I know that was kind of one of yours there, Ryan. So I'll do one other one. I'm not ruling out, and this kind of goes back to our last question that we had, or the one before that, the surprising pick that they could make. I'm not going to rule out a pick at linebacker at 66 or right at 101. I know it's not a need, and if Cody Barton is still here, I don't think that also if they don't go Sonny Styles, right? Like I think you could look at 66 and say if a Kyle Lewis is there, if there are still guys because of how many have really moved up boards. Like I'm not going to throw that out. I'm not going to rule that out, I guess I should say.
Ryan, you got something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to the Cornell Tate conversation, I'm about to post just what I heard in Indianapolis piece probably in a few minutes after the show ends. And I do think that the wide receiver one conversation is not over between Cornell Tate and Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver for Arizona State, because I reported during the Combine week that his medicals came back clean for teams in Indianapolis, and they will poke and prod him when he goes on his top 30 visits and all that type of stuff. So it's not uncertain that things won't pop up at some point. But for a guy that's had so many durability issues, I do think it was just interesting to hear that teams are just coming back clean on the medicals in Indy, which is good. One other one that I will throw out there is a little tidbit I did get was there might not be a bigger range of outcomes in the draft for any player than Akeem Mesidor, who's an edge out of Miami. There is a possibility, I know at least one team in the top 20 that could potentially take Akeem Mesidor. There's a possibility that he does, but with his durability issues in the past and his age, there is a possibility. I talked to someone who was like, he could go anywhere from like 15 to 60, and I wouldn't be surprised about it at all, right? So we're talking about the Titans at pick 35, and then I think it was 66, right? Is their third, where maybe a maneuver to get up to get an Akeem Mesidor if he starts sliding a little bit. So just the spot where Mesidor comes off the board is going to be super interesting when detailing it with the rest of the edge group of Cassius Howell and R. Mason Thomas and that type of stuff. So there is a possibility that maybe the Titans or any other team that is an edge needy team that maybe doesn't go with pick 4 could be in the market at some point for an Akeem Mesidor if he falls a little bit. So just wide range of outcomes for Akeem Mesidor based upon a couple of the things from his past.
All right.
Ryan, you're saying wide receiver one right now is between Tate and Tyson, and we're going to keep the psychopath demon, Mekhi Lemon, out of there. Listen, I don't know about you guys, but if I want a wide receiver one, I want this dude to be kind of messed up. Like I want this dude to be an alpha dog. Kind of made me like him even more.
I don't know. I would describe.
I love Mekhi Lemon,
alpha dog, but.
Yeah, weird stuff. It's weird stuff. But you know, why he's going to be
he's going to be the top in the locker room because no one wants to talk to him. He's going to be lone wolf alpha out there.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I really like Mekhi Lemon too. I like Mekhi Lemon. I just think that his profile in terms of like lacking the height, weight, speed combination, like he's probably the most likely to fall, especially after kind of getting that news on like Tyson's medicals might be better than originally anticipated. So like out of the three, I just think that he's probably, due to him being a little shorter, not the biggest wide receiver of all time, and he's going to run like 4.51. And like we're talking about Cornell Tate at 6'2 plus running 4.53 is like this massive red flag. There is going to be a conversation at some point between like Mekhi Lemon being a smaller body type in general and not testing like to a crazy level. So I just think out of those three wide receivers, he's probably the guy that has the most likeliness to fall, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I also think one more. Omar Cooper may go. He's not falling past like 26. Omar Cooper is a first round pick. So if you want to adjust your mocks accordingly, any mock with Omar Cooper being there at 35 is incorrect because this man is going in the first round. I will believe it when I see it that he doesn't.
I'm going
to drop something real fast. You're going to correct something?
Okay. Yeah, I just saw Andre put in the chat that said Tyson's medicals just mean he's he's healed up well. Does nothing to assure you about the future injury potential. Andre, that's not 100% true. Like obviously they're checking up on his, he had the bad knee injury in the past. He had the collarbone stuff, but like they're also doing like advanced stuff like bone density scans and whatnot in these type of settings where they're trying to figure out long-term outcomes as well. So it's not as simple as just like one MRI, you check out and you move forward. Like there's a lot of tests that these guys go through, which for guys that cover it on site, and JT can attest to this, it's why when we're waiting for podiums to open up, guys are like a half an hour to an hour late because this is a very like intrusive process. This isn't just like one scan, you're good and move forward. They're doing a lot of different tests to try to see if their long-term could be okay as well.
Some guys, I mean, I remember Tavondre Sweat was 3.5 hours late to his podium.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this stuff happens.
I've been trying to think of like what character from my childhood did Makai Lemon's energy remind me of? And his name is Makai.
Okay.
Which it's Ka from the Jungle Book, the snake from the Jungle Book, who's got like the crazy eye.
Just slithering around. Just slithering around.
That is Makai Lemon is his now new name.
That's a good one. I like that.
That's so weird. It's funny. Can you put his just face on the snake? Like
I'm going to work.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
That'd be really good. That's really good.
Try to work on it. McCollum. All right. That is it from us on. Oh, wait. One more super chat. Sorry, Dalen. Dalen asked, do the Titans keep Tony Pollard at the draft? Love? No, they do not keep Tony Pollard. That's just a way you save $7 million or something like that on the cap. So, and cash.
9, I believe.
So you just cut Tony Pollard and go use that money elsewhere because he drafted Jeremiah Love fourth overall. That would be.
I feel like that's going to be a really interesting one to monitor because, like, if you cut Tony Pollard this month, that's a massive show. Like you're showing your hand, right? Maybe. So like
you don't have to.
I feel like
there's no difference
exactly
in cutting pre or post draft or June. Anything.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. I would be more in line that if they're going to cut Tony Pollard, they're gonna designate him as a June 1st cut. Or like a post June 1st cut. And then wait for the draft and then do it. Because if you cut him before that, you already have so much more money. You don't need that extra $9 million this year. I mean, it's sure it could help, but it's not worth it. But like, you're not gonna show your hand by cutting
the only
him.
thing I don't like about that, and there's no other way to say it, but that's kind of a shitty move to Tony Pollard to do that, right? Because you're having him miss out on the free agency market, and so you're hurting his future earning potential and opportunities. But you also don't want to I have Tony Pollard. I don't want to get rid of Tony Pollard. The Cardinals take Jeremiah Love 3, and then you're like, now I don't have anything. Now I just have Tajay and somebody else. I don't know. It's a weird spot. Okay, now we're done. Yep. That is it for us. So tomorrow morning, full mock off season with JT Easton and I. Ryan's got NFL Combine Intel nuggets to come out on A2Zsports.com shortly this morning. And so you guys should go check that out because there's a lot more in that we did not discuss and get to here this morning. But make sure you hit that like button, like the show on the way out, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also hit up Best Pod available on YouTube as well. That's Ryan and Joe's Draft Talk channel. Check it out. Great stuff from the Combine and more coming. A mock draft coming from those guys today as well. So check that out, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning. Buck Rising live tonight for primetime. Catch you later. Appreciate it.